All right, my name is Transtorer, interviewing Ray Larman of the Bookish Type here in Leeds. Thanks for chatting to me this morning.
Well, thank you for inviting me on.
When did the Bookish Type start? Because I only kind of heard about you in the last 3 months or so.
So I mean, kind of bizarrely, we actually opened our shop during lockdown, which is clearly a ridiculous time to open any business. But we have been going kind of before then. So we started with bookstalls in 2019. So I think at the Leeds Queer Film Festival was the first bookstall. And then we did ones at Flamingos, Sheaf Street, Leeds Uni. I would do a regular one at the Book and Record Fair at Kirkgate Market. But the grand plan was always to open a bookshop, and we've been really inspired by like categories books in Glasgow and Gaze the Word, which has been in London since the 70s. So yeah, we were all kind of ready to open in spring 2020, and we've been looking at different places to rent, and we settled on the Merrion Centre, and then obviously COVID hit and lockdown and everything, and we just sort of didn't know what to do for a little bit. Like, do we kind of sit and wait? Are we going to lose the premises that we want if we do that? What we're going to do? So we just took a risk on it, and we took it, having delayed a little bit, but then we opened in September, so it was September the 1st, and then we were open for 2 months, and it went really, really well, and it was lovely. It went far better than we expected, and people were really kind and supportive. And then obviously after that it was another lockdown. Yeah, so we're waiting to open back up again, and that will be next Wednesday the 2nd.
Oh, super relieved to hear that at least there's a good start in there. Hopefully people will be able to, hopefully this and other interviews and whatnot will be able to help people clamber back once you open up again.
I mean we've been selling online, and so like I run the bookshop with Nicola, my partner, and the first lockdown she set up a website, and I mean thank God she did, because that's what we've been trading through for the last month, and that's grown, and that's going really well. So that's helped
good to
as
hear.
well.
And people definitely have been supporting, because on the times I've been, there's that wall of tags, gift tags for people donating towards someone else being able to buy a new book, and it is covered in donations. People have really submitted a lot to that.
Yeah, and I mean during this second lockdown as well, people have been buying those tags, like making donations online. So I've been adding them like in the shop. So when we reopen, there'll be even more tags there. It's really full. So I love that's people in the queer community who have maybe got a little bit more money than others, putting a £5 or a £10 tag up there to help someone else out who can't afford a book. That's the point of it. And people sometimes get a little bit emotional about it when I point out like what the board is and when they're standing in front of it. I think because it's just been such a crappy year, and just to see that little bit of just kindness from people, and often it's older people, I think, in the queer community, putting the tags on, donating that money, and then they're often used by younger people, and I like that kind of cross-generational support, I suppose.
It's always really good to hear that people are still being generous even when times are difficult.
Yeah.
Are we joining you at home right now or at the bookshop? Because I can see books behind you, but...
yeah, I'm at home. Yeah, what have I got behind me? Scruffy piles of books.
Oh, fair enough. No, clearly books are a big thing for you, so that's excellent to see. I didn't know if you're at the shop or not. What are some of your favourite books that you've gotten in that we can get via Bookish Type when you reopen and via the website? Because I've got a few as well, but I'm curious to know some of yours.
Oh, okay. So one of my favourite ones is Cantorus, which I'm always going on about. So it's Carolina de Robertis is the author, and it's set in Uruguay in the 1970s, and it's quite a there's a dictatorial regime. It's about this group of women who are surviving under that regime, and they're kind of friends and they're lovers. It's really that the whole climate is really kind of homophobic, and you don't want to be seen as different in any way whatsoever, or you're just going to get kind of pulled by the military police. But they come together and they find this beach area where there's a sort of like a bit of a rundown kind of shack, and they make it a home, and it becomes their sanctuary and their kind of safe space where they can go to. And it's somewhere where they can breathe. Like the idea of them being able to breathe freely is used quite a lot in the novel. It represents freedom for them. So it's about their friendship, it's about the love between them all. It's just fabulous. It's a really lovely book. There's some quite traumatic stuff in it, but it's fabulous. So I love that. And then I've been trying to read more sort of speculative fiction, partly because I thought I don't think this is my thing, but then I kind of surprised myself by really enjoying what I was reading, and so now I want to read loads more. So I read Finna by, I think it's Nino Cipri, which is fabulous. It's this sort of magical anti-capitalist novel set in a Swedish flat pack store.
Excellent.
Which has a different name from the one you would expect. And it's about these co-workers who were in a relationship and they've now split up. So it's sort of about how you become friends after you've been in a relationship. But what happens is, in one of the set rooms in this store, an elderly customer has fallen down some kind of wormhole and ended up in some kind of alternate version of the Swedish furniture store. And it turns out there are all these different alternate versions of it. And so this couple have to go down the wormhole with this machine called a finner, which is going to track this customer and kind of bring her back. And it's just done in a very sort of like everyday manner. Like it's just kind of accepted that there are these wormholes, and they have to watch some crappy corporate video which shows them how to use the finner machine. And I feel like everyone's watched one of those crappy corporate videos at some point in their whatever their job role, you know, when you're doing some training. And they don't want to go on this adventure together because they've just split up. So the last thing they want to do is actually spend time together. But it's about how they kind of move towards friendship whilst having this adventure, finding this customer. So yeah, they're two really great things that I've read and that I feel kind of proud that we stock, I suppose.
I love how different those are as well. That's excellent.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, the Uruguayan one is far more kind of realist, and I think I thought that they were the kind of books that I really liked, but yeah, I started off with a bit of Octavia Butler and then kind of went on to Nino Cipri and The Deep as well by Rivers Solomon. So yeah, I'm pleased that I'm liking that kind of fiction more.
Awesome.
What about you then? What do you like?
Oh well, I love comics, and I've I've bought some from you already. From the first thing I got from Bookish Type was actually Bloom by Kevin Panetta and Savannah Ganeshow, which is more on the light end of things. It's very light, it's very sweet, it's very all ages and just really nice, and it's about a kid who has been working in his parents' bakery for years and is kind of disillusioned with the whole thing, and is just at that in-between point in age where he's wanting to move out, and you can see that the friends he's going to move in with aren't really that great of people, and they're kind of not great to him, but he's kind of focusing on the moving thing and being like, my home is the problem, and not realising that, I think it's just your lack of wanting to communicate better with people that's the problem. But then Hector joins the bakery, and Hector loves baking, and is also very sweet and very cool, and they kind of form a friendship with potential romance in there, and he begins to realise that he doesn't hate baking, he enjoys baking, it's just that he's become very jaded about the whole thing, because it's been there his whole life. And it's just a really great coming-of-age story about looking at what you want versus what you're trying to avoid, you know, because there's that old thing about chasing euphoria rather than just running away from dysphoria and trying to find things that make you happy. And it analyses that really well in the form of someone who is bad at communicating and is struggling to realise what they actually want themselves, and is searching for that geographical cure. Once I move here, everything will be great for no reason. You know, I'll have to live on somebody's sofa and do a job I don't like, but everything will be great. It's like, don't think so.
People kid themselves with that all the time, I think, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I moved to Stratford-upon-Avon to live with my partner, who I'm currently living in Leeds with now, and as much as it is meant to be an artsy and fancy place, it's like, it's also really conservative, and everything's really expensive. And we end up moving back to Leeds, and it's like, oh my god, everything's affordable, and there's actually stuff we can go to with our friends that isn't just made for tourists.
It's not all Shakespeare themed.
I know, yeah. I mean, not at the moment, obviously, but Leeds has got some kind of thing going on in town basically every weekend normally. Like, there's a beer fest, and then there's some kind of arts fest, and then there's Thought Bubble at some point, there's a zine fest in a library at other points, and I do love how much Leeds loves zines as well. I'm missing that aspect. I'm looking forward to that coming back at some point. You have a decent number of zines yourself. There's a whole bookshelf of local stuff going on.
Yeah, we're getting more in all the time. It's good to have a range of zines, and I think people appreciate that it's mainly kind of local queer artists who've made them as well. Yeah, often people's like the zine makers' friends will come in, and suddenly we've like sold 5 copies in one go because they're so excited that they're in the bookshop, which is really sweet.
Oh, that's excellent. I do love it whenever I see someone who's quite indie in a shop and be like, oh my god, they've reached out to here, oh my god, they're actually being liked and enjoyed and, shared around. Yeah. I love indie zines from people like Quemby with Trans Joy that just tries to talk about the euphoria rather than dysphoria. People like Mama Lips and Black Lodge Press, who talk about the difficulties of being queer, but in a really real and very sweet kind of way that's very followable.
I do love with CJ Black Lodge Press the Butt Springsteen. I think that's fabulous. People always have a giggle at that.
Yes.
Just to see that Bruce Springsteen's ass. It's great.
Big shout out to Black Lodge Press. They have been doing such cool things for so long now.
Yeah, their artwork is amazing. So actually, that we are getting more of their work in for Christmas, which I'm really pleased about.
Oh, that's super exciting! Oh, I'm going to look. But on that shelf as well, I remember at the bottom of it, you've got tons of colouring books, like adult colouring books, drag colouring books, queer history books. We were talking about how that's more of an American thing, but there's a load of them that you've gotten in, which is really interesting.
Yeah, well, quite a lot of them are American imports. And I think the most popular one at the moment is the Queer Animals one, which is Otter Leaf. Oh, I can't remember the other person who did it.
Editing Harry from the future here, Otter Leaf and Anja von Geert, if I'm saying that right, which I'm probably not.
Yeah, it's fabulous. It's just about, I suppose, just disrupting that idea that kind of that nature is natural and there's never any kind of homosexual behaviour or whatever you want to call it within animals. And then like you read about what manatees get up to and pigeons and lizards.
Yes.
It's incredible. So it sort of, I suppose, troubles ideas about gender and sexuality and sexual behaviour. Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. So, it is informative, kind of shatters myths that you have from watching David Attenborough programmes, and you get to do colouring in as well. So, it's all good.
Oh, I love that. I have loved, following the webcomic artist Humon talking about that as well, and her Animal Lives series, because there's animals out there that are multi orientational, just not caring orientational, lots of polycules for specific family raising types. Wow, that's formed in a really weird and interesting way. Like, they basically have 4 genders in some cases. And obviously there's clownfish, that the male becomes the largest and the female in order to become the head of the school, which is like, oh my god, everything changes. It's really cool seeing that happen in the quote-unquote natural world, whatever natural means.
Yeah, well, yeah, quite, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm really pleased that seems to have become a bit of a favourite, and we're, selling lots of those.
That's awesome. Candice on our Patreon asks, now that you have a bookshop, is there something that has pleasantly surprised you that you didn't realise would be a thing until you'd actually got the premises and were running it yourself?
Oh, I'm not sure. I suppose just people's enthusiasm and excitement that we're there. I mean, I thought people would be happy that we were there, kind of thing, and I'd had positive feedback from the bookstalls. But because of where we are, we're upstairs in the Merrion Centre, and the Merrion Centre is a very functional kind of 60s shopping centre for those who don't know it. It's kind of an unusual location, so most people who come to us have found out about us. They're not just wandering past, so they've kind of they've made an effort to come to us, and because of that, they're very supportive and enthusiastic, and almost, with some of them, almost as soon as they set foot through the door, and they'll be sort of, oh wow, oh this is amazing, this is great that Leeds has this. And I think I knew there would be that to an extent, because I feel that, and always have when I've gone to other queer bookshops, but I didn't expect maybe quite so much of that sort of love and support, I suppose, which obviously is lovely, and I'm really, really grateful for that. And we were talking about the Pay It Forward board. I'm surprised and delighted that that's working so well. Actually, one thing that I have seen, and I guess you start noticing gaps in the market. This is kind of an interesting one. So if you're interested in being an author, like I would say, there's a real need for more ace books from a UK perspective, and that aren't YA. There's just like this gap. There seems to be, like, there are kind of factual, like kind of primer guide books about being asexual, but they're American mainly. There's a fair bit of YA. There are some adult novels, but there's not masses. I just feel there needs to be more of a UK angle. And then also with children's books, there just need to be more beautiful and lovely queer kids books, I think. And that kind of gap in between young children's books and YA, that sort of middle grade area, I don't know, sort of 8 to 12, 13, and it needs to be more books in that area, I think. Yeah, so that's one thing that I hadn't kind of expected, I suppose. You just start seeing those gaps, and I'm sure I'll see more as time goes on. Yeah.
It's a really interesting thing that, there's been a lot of YA for a few years now. Well, probably for even longer than the vampire movie that people are thinking of. However, I guess it's a very known setting, and then they go to the high school, and it's a very transformative time in anyone's life, etc. So it makes sense. And people have been to high school themselves, so it's very relatable. But as someone who grew up on, like, manga and anime, I do get very sick of going to high school over and over again. Like, right. I would just love a bit of variety in, like, people in college, people in jobs, maybe. I would also love more stories of people realizing their queerness in later life, because that's such a real thing that I know from a lot of people who have discovered that they're, gay in their 30s or 40s, or trans in their 40s and 50s. I think there's a lot of people who are in that situation that could do with more examples of that, and seeing this could be okay. You'd still enjoy yourself, way into your not 20s. Because a lot of these books, I feel like, well, you're meant to have yourself figured out by the time you're 30. And I'm there at 29, like, no, terrible lie. you keep figuring yourself out all of the time. I've come out multiple times as gay and then as trans and all that jazz, so... Yeah. No,
I think you're right. It would be good to have more books that kind of focus on older people's experiences. And I'm reading Nonbinary Lives, which is sort of various chapters by different authors, and I know the ones just about their experiences of being non-binary, but I know the ones that I'm more interested in are the older people whose identities have maybe shifted over time, and you get a sense of the politics that they were into, which have maybe changed as well. And sometimes there's just just because they have lived longer, there's more there's just more experience there, isn't there, to talk about.
Absolutely.
So I really value it when it's people who are in their 40s, 50s and upwards writing.
I should pick that one up. That sounds really cool. That sounds very me particularly.
I quite like those books where you can just kind of dip into it, because everyone has authored a different chapter, so and there's some that will resonate with you and maybe others won't, but that's that's a good thing about those books.
I mean, I love a good anthology. I love being able to find a whole bunch of people and just see which one of them really resonate with me, and be like, okay, what else have they done? Because this person's fascinating. So
quite. It can be a good starting point to someone's work, can't it?
So you're in the Marion Centre. I'll insert the address here so I can look it up. Number 58, Marion Centre, Leeds, Lima Sierra 2, 8 November, Golf. But you're upstairs at the Marion Centre, which I actually think would be great for people who have a bit of a difficulty with, crowds or noises, because it's very quiet up there. And there's not that many shops on the upstairs, at least near that entrance I've seen.
No, I'm pleased we're there now. I wasn't sure about it at first, but we're pretty central in town, which is great. Most people from Leeds know of the Marion Centre. and then you just have to say, well, it's just upstairs, and there's a lift and there's escalators or there's stairs to get there. And you're right, it is quiet when you get up there, and that's good. That's kind of what you want a bookshop environment to be. So
yeah,
we're central, but we're a little bit tucked away at the same time.
Yeah, it's like this. It's like an easily kind of overlooked little secret pocket of something, which I think is like, it's a little bit magical like that.
Yes.
But I totally.
And you know what? They're all really lovely in the Merrion Centre as well.
Oh, that's
They're
really good
nice.
to hear. Yeah, I totally recommend people popping in once you're open again, or visiting your website in the meantime, which I'll pop here as well. thebookishtype.co.uk. That wasn't really that hard. thebookishtype.co.uk. You put an open call out for people doing non-book, but maybe book adjacent things, or little gifts or crafts that they could sell in the shop over Christmas, which, thank you, it's awesome to have local folks have somewhere they can actually put their stuff, because you get buried on Etsy under everything else that exists. And I've seen you've got t-shirts from the t-shirts as seen legendarily in Pride, the movie, the Miners Ally concert t-shirts, which
LGSM.
are awesome. Yes, I was so happy to see that, because my partner and I went to see that movie, and we both got the shirts because she worked at the cinema at the time, and I love that movie so much. And also the whole story about, you know, the allyship between these two groups that have both been very put upon, and how they're able to help each other get to a more stable point, and that's just excellent. I'm rambling, sorry. I just wanted to ask what kind of gifts and stuff you've got in.
Okay, so we have the LGSM T-shirt, which has the kind of the poster of the benefit gig. I know Bronski Beat were one of the acts playing at it, so it's Pits and Perverts is the name of the gig. So we've got those. We also have lots of local zines that we mentioned before, and I can't remember everybody's names, so I'm not going to be able to say them all. But we have some fantastic zines. We have lots of badges, so some of those are kind of new in for Christmas, and we have prints from about, I think, 3 or 4 different people. We're also going to be having our own Bookish Type vouchers for Christmas. We've got those. We've got the Rainbow Junction cookbook. So Rainbow Junction are the queer-run community cafe in Leeds, who do a kind of pay-as-you-feel cafe using waste food. And they've got this amazing cookbook that even I can use. It's just, it's so simple. They're all so tasty. I'm not a very good cook, but even I can use this cookbook. So that's fabulous. And all the money from that goes to Rainbow Junction. And then we've started printing Leslie Feinberg's Stone Butch Blues, which I'm really pleased we're doing, because it's a real trans classic, and it's really hard to get hold of, because you can read it like as a PDF online, but Leslie never wanted it sold for profit. So this is a bit of an issue if you're a bookseller. So we are arranging it to be printed, and then we're just selling it at cost price, so we don't make any money from it, but we're doing it because we think it's just this classic text that everyone should read. So
that's awesome. You've got so much going on. That's so cool. All right. Well, I can't wait until I get the opportunity to pop in again and sit on the gorgeous little lounger you've got.
The tiny sofa.
It's so demure and so nice. I totally recommend people popping into the Bookish Type, because it's just a very sweet, like I say, little nook that you might have overlooked it, but people are talking about it all the time among the queer circles I know, and I'm so happy I've got to go there before we had to close, and then we're going to be opening again. So I'm looking forward to December for one of that reason, among others.
Okay, well, it'll be open from Wednesday, so come in. Maybe one thing that I haven't said is that I'm pleased, that we are a space that is open during the daytime. It's got nothing to do with alcohol. It's a space where all ages can come into. And, there's Flamingos Cafe, isn't there, which I guess is similar in that sense, but there aren't many other places in Leeds for the queer community that are like that. They tend to be kind of nighttime places, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, I've had that issue
so
as well.
I'm pleased, I'm pleased that we can offer that, and that we do really seem to get quite a wide range of people coming in, which is lovely.
That's super awesome. And yeah, absolutely. It's good to have a variety of places that queer folks can just go when they're hanging out in town, And absolutely shout out to James and the Flamingos crew, who've done their best to stay open and diversify and pay living wage throughout all the difficulties, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ray, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to me. This has been wonderful. It's so lovely to catch up.
No problem. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I'll see you in the shop sometime soon, hopefully.
I'm super hyped about it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you again so much to Ray for taking the time to speak to me about the Bookish Type. Again, it's a wonderful queer bookshop, local and independent, and I highly recommend visiting them at the Merrion Centre, number 58. Just go upstairs. It's pretty easy to spot. Or if it is locked down at the time you're hearing this, which is incredibly likely, thebookishtype.co.uk is their website, and they do deliver. And keep up with any of their news and events at Facebook, The Bookish Type Leeds, at Twitter, Type Leeds, and Instagram, The Bookish Type Leeds. Thanks for listening to my neighbour Transtoro. I've been MX Harry Ann Bentley, and our library of sounds and sound effects has come from zapsplat.co.uk. Thank you so much for listening. Stay well, stay healthy, and happy holidays. Saxophone noises.